Good morning, everyone. I'm Andrea Mendez-Barrutia, the Director of Community Engagement for the Hispanic Collaborative. We appreciate you being here for our last Bank Roadshow meeting of 2020. And thanks to those of you who may have been here since we first kicked off the series in June. As a reminder, the purpose of the Bank Roadshow series is to support Milwaukee's banking, financial, and frontline entrepreneur support community with in-depth information on the entrepreneurial ecosystem, programs, and services in order to strengthen our community's existing and budding entrepreneurs. This month's presentation will be on the Marquette Law and Entrepreneurship Clinic, and we have the clinic's director, Nathan Hammonds, joining us this morning. I'll hand it over to Nathan, and then we'll open it up to Q&A.
All right, great. Thank you very much, Andrea, and thank you for the invitation today. It's very excited to hear about the Bank Roadshow. My program is a somewhat newer one. I helped launch it back in 2014, 2015 was our soft launch. Maybe a little backstory will even help explain, what we are. When I had moved to Milwaukee with my wife back in 2011, I had a solo law practice and was involved in the entrepreneurial community, which has, been growing in fits and starts since then. And I met a number of terrific or potentially terrific clients, but they couldn't afford, full service legal fees. And someone approached me and said, hey, Madison has this great clinic that provides legal services to entrepreneurs. Why doesn't Marquette have one? So I actually pitched the idea. After some time, the dean thought it would be a good idea. And that's when we launched the program about 5 years ago. Okay, now let me provide a little bit more detail on what we actually are. And I kind of describe it differently depending on who the audience is, because sometimes it can be a little confusing. What are you? If I'm describing it to law students, I say, look, we're an educational program. We're housed in the law school. You get academic credit for it. It's training. You're finally, not reading a big law textbook. You're working with real clients in the community. Now, if I'm describing it to, community partners, what I describe our clinic is, you can think of us like an independent law office. We provide real legal services. We tend to be slower than if you're working with, a full service law firm. But that said, we strive to provide, top-notch legal services. And we focus on entrepreneurial clients, and I'll provide some additional detail on the types of businesses we serve in southeastern Wisconsin. I love to focus on my clinic really focuses on more of the economically disadvantaged areas of the city, but we have a wide range of clients. Okay. Now, our mission, just to kind of reiterate what I said, is the first one is that we are academic in nature, and that's where my students they each put in. Like my students this year are putting in 240 hours of clinical work. They are graded, and I should add they're all upper class third-year law students. Second part of our mission is to provide excellent legal services to our clients, and then the third part, as noted here, is really to help the community, and that's where we view our clinic as part of our larger entrepreneurial ecosystem, and we really do want to help see our community flourish. Now, in terms of my students, you can see here right now, this is a couple cohorts of my students. The picture on the left was actually at the Tandem restaurant, which some of you might know on Fond du Lac, which was one of our clients. They are all third-year law students. I typically have a diverse group of students. Just an example of who, and the way that we work is that they work under my supervision. They are certified to practice law under what's called the student practice rule in Wisconsin. So they can actually provide legal services, and that's under my supervision or the supervision of another licensed attorney. Now, in terms of our clients, who you're probably more interested in, have some examples here. You might know some of them. Top left is Truman McGee. He's the owner of Funky Fresh Spring Rolls, which is an awesome restaurant. Paige Peters, she's a Marquette graduate student and working on a water technology startup. Ben Morales, bottom left, he launched a startup called Latino Pro, which is a bilingual staffing services company. And then we have Amy Nar and Mario Diaz, who are the owners of Triciclo Peru, which is an empanada restaurant on Vliet. Exciting to say they're actually opening their second restaurant over on the east side, which is very cool. Just to give you kind of a flavor of the types of businesses that we work with. Since we launched in 2015, we've helped more than 300 entrepreneurs. We primarily work with micro businesses, and these are very small businesses, right? Fewer than 5 employees. Many of them are just launching, although we have worked with some that have been around for 3, 4, 5 years. Last academic year, just about half of our clients were minority-owned businesses, and actually more than half of them were women-owned businesses. So I actively go out and work with community partners to try to find those types of businesses. The other thing I would mention about our clients is I kind of put them into 2 different buckets. And actively seek out these types of clients. The first one is what you might call, and this is what it's a label of the Kauffman Foundation, and that is your Main Street businesses. So these are ones that, it might be a restaurant, a corner shop, a landscaping company where they do not have, plans to grow, at least at the time, a large, multi-state type business. The other type of businesses that we serve, Paige Peters might be an example here, is your scalable startup, right? What you might think of as more of a traditional type of startup where they know that they're probably going to be pursuing venture capital financing, and they want to grow big. So we actively, seek out those types of clients, and we do serve both types of clients. Next up, areas of legal support. So some people wonder, okay, you provide, pro bono legal support. And I would emphasize that our services are pro bono. So that means they are fully free. Some things have governmental filing fees, like, forming your LLC. We have a number of clients who are interested in pursuing trademark protection, and clients need to pay those out of pocket. First bullet point here, business entity selection and formation. A number of clients, they'll come to us and they say, I don't know what to be. What's the difference between a sole proprietorship and an LLC and a C corporation and an S corporation? My CPA says I should be an S corporation. Are they right? Or should I think about something else? So we will help clients sort through that. And once they have sorted through it, we'll actually help them put in place their governance documents. Okay, and that's kind of the second bullet point there, corporate governance. A number of clients say, they are first-time entrepreneurs. They have never launched a business before. And so they have questions about, how do you kind of, maintain these things called corporate formalities? What annual filings do you have to do? Other things like, how do you limit your liability? A number of people, they form that business entity because they are worried about, even though their business might not be really high risk, they are concerned about lawsuits. And so what can you do to help limit or liability? Next one, which I think would probably be of interest to the bankers, watching this, are funding and financing issues. And this is where, a number of clients, I think I've hardly met any that aren't in need of financing in one way or another. And so for many of them, they'll come to us and they'll say, what are our options? Now, our clinic does not, we act like a traditional law firm. We don't provide financing, but we do strive to be a connector. And so that's where we can help, point them in the right direction. We refer a number of our clients to WIBIC for microfinance lending. We help explain that, in many cases, traditional commercial lending might not be an option for them. Some of them are not familiar with terms like personal guarantee. So we help them understand that and whether they, should or need to, take on a personal guarantee. For those on the startup realm that might be interested in pursuing angel or venture capital financing, what we will do there is we kind of act as an educator, and we will help kind of explain the path to them, and also, help hopefully set them up properly in terms of their equity ownership and whatnot, so that they can get to that point. And that's where, clients, they do graduate. I call it graduate from our program, just as we have students that graduate. is we want to help them get set up. As you know, a number of people are entrepreneurs, their credit history might not be terrific, but they are incredibly enthusiastic. They want to get into a position where they are able to actually take on those traditional financing. And so we really strive to help connect them with business mentors, other support organizations, and lenders to get them to that point. Business contracts. This is one where, a number of businesses, especially service providers, where they need a contract with their customers, or maybe they're purchasing goods or services from another business, and we will help them with that. Employment law. As you might know, a number of entrepreneurs and new businesses, and actually many businesses for that general, just because they're short on cash and they view it as easier from a compliance standpoint, they have a tendency to classify workers as independent contractors. And so what we can do there is help them understand both state and federal law on worker classification, because we want to make sure that they don't misclassify workers, because there can be some adverse consequences to that. If they can't take somebody on as an independent contractor, we can help them prepare a legal agreement with that person. Or if they need to be an employee, we've drafted a number of employee handbooks, and also just providing general counsel on entering into relationships with new employees. Because for some of our businesses, they have never hired an employee before, and there's a lot of steps that come along with that, and so we help them on that process. Business licenses and permits. Kind of an interesting fact, for better or for worse. If we're advising a undergraduate who has a cool idea for a new app, not a lot of licenses involved there. But if you want to open a brick and mortar, a restaurant that has that allows pets in it or something like that, much more complicated from a licensing standpoint. So that's where we can help counsel our clients on, what state, or in some cases, federal licenses do you need. Trademark, copyright, and other basic IP matters. It's kind of interesting. Almost every one of our clients that we see has questions about protecting their intellectual property. Oftentimes that starts with just their business name, where they'll go, look, I came up with what I think is a really cool business name. I'm worried about somebody else starting a business with the same name. Or I have this amazing recipe, and how can I protect that, right? Like, people love my food and I'm worried about somebody stealing my recipe. And that's, can they use something like a trade secret law or copyright law or something else to actually protect that recipe? And so that's what we will provide assistance on that. The one area that we do not do, you'll notice, is with patent law. So inventions, if we'll provide some general guidance if we do work with inventors, but typically what we will do there is we will refer them to other resource providers. And I added a slide here just at the end with some other organizations that do provide legal support, and so that's where you can make note of that. Lastly, commercial leases. So these are businesses that have an actual storefront. We've helped negotiate and actually put in place a number of commercial leases for small businesses. Okay. And one other thing that I'll add here, and it's less into legal support, and I think that's where our entrepreneurial community, works its best. But we're always, there is always work to be done, and that's where we do strive to be a connector. And so, we get a number of our clients through community partners such as WIBIC, BizStarts, the Small Business Development Center, the Minority Chambers, SCORE, organizations that support entrepreneurs. And we, in turn, because we don't provide, that hands-on support on the business side, we refer clients to those organizations in turn. So that's where, I certainly try to stay on top of new developments, grant or lending opportunities. So if you are with an organization out there and we do not have an existing relationship yet, please feel free to, send me an email. I'd love to have a, virtual chat, and we could explore how we could collaborate. bilingual support and confidentiality. I know Andrea wanted me to address this. I wish we had somebody fully bilingual on, as a full-time staffer. We do not, but what I would say is that we absolutely do not want language to be a barrier. We use various ways to ensure that language is not a barrier. Last year, I had a student from Puerto Rico. This year, I have a student from Mexico. Previously, we've worked with Spanish-speaking clients where they bring in a relative or a friend who can serve in a capacity to translate. On my list of things to do for this next year is actually to add a bilingual or a Spanish application for services for our clinic. So if you encounter somebody who is Spanish speaking or even speaks a different language for that matter, please still put them in touch, because Marquette has some terrific resources, and we will strive to help them. The other thing that I would add is that as a law office, and I am a licensed Wisconsin attorney, we are bound by the rules of professional conduct that govern all attorneys. And that means that all of our meetings are fully confidential. We don't discuss it, as any lawyer would at their law firm outside of our office. And one reason why I mention this is, a number of our clients have questions about immigration law or about things that might not have gone well, and we want to be supportive there. And we can refer out. I am not an immigration attorney, but I have good relationships with immigration attorneys, and I have good relationships with tax attorneys. We have some clients who hadn't filed their taxes for 3 years, and they just don't know what the heck to do. And that's where we want the business owners to feel comfortable that they can speak with us and understand that we are there in a supportive relationship, and that what we discuss will be kept confidential. How to apply? So we do have an application. I need to shorten our link here, but if you can just Google Marquette Law and Entrepreneurship Clinic, or go to the law school's website. It's law.marquette.edu, and we are under the community tab. What perhaps is a little easier is you can email our clinic at entrepreneurclinic@marquette.edu. And people, it's easy to find my contact information online. People will also email and call me. The one thing I would note is we are not a walk-in clinic. We set up all of our meetings in advance. And oftentimes what we will do, and we do have the capacity so far to serve anybody who's interested in this, is to provide what we call brief legal advice. And our brief legal advice meetings typically last anywhere from 30 to 45, or in some instances, 60 minutes. And what we do during that time is we learn about the entrepreneur, we learn about their business, and then we walk through their legal questions. Oftentimes we can point them in the right direction. Where we cannot, or if they need additional resources, we follow up with an email to them, or even invite them back for a second meeting. Also, for a fewer number of clients, and that's just due to our resource limitations, we do provide full service representation. And that's where we will do that, full review and negotiation of the commercial lease, putting in place all those governance documents and whatnot. Okay. Fortunately, with the practice of law, almost all of what we can do, it's perfectly fine with being virtual. So we have been virtual for a while, but we found that to work quite well. Other legal resources. So we are not the only program in town, which is great. We have a terrific relationship with Madison's Law and Entrepreneurship Clinic. They provide services statewide, and including with programs with entrepreneurs in the Milwaukee area. Their application is on their website. It's right there. Also, second bullet point here, Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinics. They've actually added slots. So this is where they have people sign up. Now it's virtual meetings in advance, and they have various times throughout the week. They just added slots for entrepreneurs or business owners in need of business-related legal assistance. Legal Action of Wisconsin has started a program to help small businesses as well. And then lastly here, Legal Corps, they are actually based out of Minneapolis, but they cover all of Wisconsin, and they're part of what's called the pro bono patent program of the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, and they work with lower income inventors. So if you work with anybody who is that kind of, so-called garage or basement inventor, and they need patent related help, Legal Core can be a terrific program. All right, so that brings me to the end here. I think we can probably open it up for any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Nathan. So are there any questions that you have for Nathan about the clinic, their services?
Andrea, hi.
Hi, Marisol.
Hi. Nathan, thank you for the presentation. I do have a question. With the free legal clinics, is it just information that you share with people that are in need, that it has to do with just a business and entrepreneurial services, or is there something else that those clinics provide in addition?
So that's a great question. So the Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinics has traditionally not provided business legal assistance. They provided all for your other civil legal needs. So family law, basically other problems that people have had on the civil. Only recently, within the last month, have they actually added. And if I were to pull up their website, I could list all of the various areas of law that they provide, but it's much broader than that. So that sort of people, it's not on criminal, but on civil, family law, evictions, wide range of other, if people are in need of legal support, then the Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinics is great for that.
I know in the past you had like a weekly legal clinic, like that volunteer clinic would pop up at the United Community Center on a weekly basis before all of the COVID crisis began. How are the services being provided now for the legal clinic, the volunteer legal clinics?
Yeah, that's a great question. They're being provided virtually. So at the MVLC's website, they have a link, and what people do is you make a phone call, and then they return the phone call, and we'll set up a Zoom meeting.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that.
Uh-huh.
Nathan, in terms of the application process, is it for that, what are you looking for in terms of accepting the entrepreneurs that receive your services?
So we look at a variety of things. In some cases, if it's, we do support the really, really early stage entrepreneurs, but if they just came up with the idea with their friend a week or two ago, sometimes we say, you need more business help before you need your legal help. So go work on your business plan a little bit more. But in other cases, we still want to answer their legal questions, but we want to put it in context as well. So it's not one where we turn them down and say, you're done. What we do then is say, come back to us in a month or two. Okay. But, primarily what we're looking at is those smaller businesses that cannot afford legal services. We've had some people apply, and these are high income earners, and we say, it's great that you've applied for us, but there's other people who are in greater need. So we do examine that.
And can I ask, just generally, are there any changes in activity since the pandemic started? Are you seeing any trends?
So typically, we've only helped with starting the businesses, but we have counseled a number of businesses on how do they get out of their commercial lease? How do you wind down your business and perhaps start a different one? So we are helping with that now. Some of the other trends, and here's where, I give credit to the entrepreneurs, where they're thinking, are there types of businesses that would do well in this sort of environment? So we helped a couple that started a cleaning services company with a focus on sterilization services. We've helped some with mobile delivery. We've helped some restaurants transition to your more curbside. You know, how can you, if you can't have, you know, people, some of them, it's just, it's going to be a very, very challenging, you know, it's been challenging already, and the winter is going to be a long one. And, you know, what can they do to, you know, get through that? At what time do you need to say, look, it's, you know, it's awful and we do need to close down the business. How do we do that? So we want to be supportive in that regard. So it's, yeah, you know, entrepreneurs are resilient, but there's also a point where, you know, you got to throw in the towel. So we want to support them in that process if that's what they need to do.
Thank you. Any other questions for Nathan?
Hi, Nathan. I have a question for you. Thank you so much for the presentation as well. But you said something, it's income based. So what is there a guideline? Is it on the website of between what income you're able to help on a pro bono?
Yeah, so I generally look for individuals that are from a historically disadvantaged group or in a disadvantaged area of the city. It's up to 500% of the federal poverty guidelines. And that's variable depending, and that's, you know, some programs like legal action or legal aid, it's significantly lower, and that's tied to federal requirements where it's only like 125% of the federal poverty level. We don't have those limitations. And so we also know it can, you know, take a fair amount of capital to launch a business. So for those types of businesses, it goes up to 500% of the federal poverty guidelines. We try to be flexible too. In some, you know, we'll typically, anybody that's interested in that brief counseling session, we'll oftentimes meet with them. For the full service representation, we do, you know, focus more on the income limitations.
What about in helping someone fill out the documentation needed for permits and licensing with the city of Milwaukee?
Yeah.
For example, if they want to start a restaurant, is that something you walk them through as well?
Absolutely. Yep.
Perfect. I'll be sending you clients. Thank you so much, Nathan.
Yep, you bet.
Thank you for those questions. I know I can't see people, so if there's any other questions, please let us know. I will be sharing Nathan's contact information as well in the follow-up email. So we hope you found this presentation informative, and we'll definitely share this resource with those who may not be aware of it, and especially with those who may need the clinic services. Like I said, I'll be sharing Nathan's information as well as a recording of the meeting in a follow-up email. Please save the date for the January Bank Roadshow on Thursday, January 21st. The featured presentation will be on the Latino Chamber of Commerce of Southeastern Wisconsin. I hope everyone has a peaceful and safe holiday. Thanks again, Nathan, to you for that great presentation, and we look forward to seeing everyone next year.